Sorry, I'm trying not to sit.
I don't get sick.
All right. All right, let's do it. Start with roll call here.
504. Brian.
I'm here.
Tyler.
Here.
Kim.
Yep.
John.
Here.
And Deb. Here.
All right, please. For the work session, I just need someone to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are in session. Thank you.
Is that my cue?
Yeah, it is.
Good. I want to make sure we do everything I know legally.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll make sure you don't get in trouble. Good evening. First of all, it's good to see all of you, and I understand that we have a big basketball game tonight to determine whether or not we go to state. Potentially a concert tonight for the first graders, if I understand correctly. We don't know for sure if we're going to refer that. So obviously we have a busy night to get done some work here. So kind of I'd like to outline what I would like you to consider doing tonight. You will do more of the work than anything else. I'll do a few introductory pieces, but the idea is to get your thinking done tonight. So as most of you know, or all of you know, we met with the stakeholder groups that you identified. We asked the questions that you recommended that we did, gathered the data. John and I have had an opportunity to, I'm going to say, loosely analyze that data to come up with what we believe each of those individual groups had as themes based upon the responses and the information we got. All of that data, when we come back, will be available to you. So you will see everything verbatim as it was presented to us, and you'll be able to see what we thought were some general themes that came out of each of those. There are two groups that are missing in that. One of them would be you as a board. The second would be the administrative team. Purpose behind that is when we sit down and and I want to confirm this with you, what you believe your role will be so that we're all on the same page again. My idea was, last time I was with you, is the fact that all of this data would come to you, you would look at it, and you would determine kind of three areas of preference, if you will, or what's my priority in the district. And I'm going to ask you to hold it to 3. I really am, because if it gets much larger than that, nothing gets done to the degree I think that I hear you saying you'd like to see it done. If that's true, then you would take all of that data, you would see what we thought were some themes, you would look at your own themes, which this is a critical piece tonight, you look at the administrator themes, and then you, the 5 of you, need to determine these are it. So if I read across all of these groups, I'm thinking they're saying boom. And that's the kind of consensus that I would encourage you to reach. At that point, then you would turn this back around and say, administrative team, here's what we believe our community has said to us, our board has said to us, you have said to us. So we're trying to not leave any stone unturned. And you know, the minute I say that, there's going to be some stone that isn't turned that's going to say, but you never asked me. But anyway, that's just the way it is. And so at that point, then we would have another work session. I'm sorry, but you said this was a priority for you. So therefore, the work has to be behind it, getting it done. Look at all of those, come up with the 3. We then turn it over to Lindsay and his team to come up with the actual objectives, if you will, the operationalizing of what it is that you determine as a board. And I think the process is solid. I think you've involved a lot of folks. I think you can be proud of it. We don't know what the outlook or the outcome will be just yet, but I think there will be a product when we're done. Then up to Lindsay. If I or John or both of us can help with the administrative team in facilitating the development of that, we're happy to do that as well as we go. So tonight's charge, basically, and I'll give you your results in just a moment here, as to what you put in. I don't know who put in what. You'll see there's a reference to a number. I don't know if you're 1 and you're 2, or I don't know. It doesn't matter to me at all. But all of the comments that you put in on the form and or sent to Lindsay and came to me are here. Okay? So we have 4 out of 5 of you. That's all I know that I have information on. Beyond that, I don't know what the deal is. So again, no fingers pointed. That's what we have. That's what we'll work with, and we'll get done what we can. Tomorrow, I should tell you, tomorrow I'm meeting with the administrative team, I think at 8:30, Lindsay, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
We'll do the same exercise we're doing here with you. You'll see all of that data, all of your data, and then you'll build it from there. So my question, first of all, to you is a reaction. Are we moving in the direction that you assumed when we met a long time ago, before the snow fell like it has, to get to the outcome of giving you the ability to see data gathered from multiple groups across your community to establish 3 priorities that you think really is where we need to be working, and then the operationalization of that to your administrative team. Any thoughts, or have I just worn you out already?
No, that sounds good, and I now remembered I forgot to put mine in online. I sent it in hard copy.
We said it.
Okay. I apologize.
I've been so impressed with all of your technology here. I thought, these guys should be able to have. No, I would have brought that up.
just.
It was in there.
I'm Italian, so we always say it's in the sauce.
Yeah.
It's in the sauce.
That's my bad.
So you have the results from us, you have the results from the admin team.
I do not yet.
Oh, you do
I will
not.
have those tomorrow
So
morning.
they're gonna meet and talk about.
They're
them
gonna do
there.
the same
They have-
exercise you're doing. They're gonna look
They
at.
didn't go online and like
Yes, they
answer
did.
those questions. That's
Yeah.
what I meant.
So
sorry.
you did it over here. You had a
Oh.
remember on the sheet, it was administrator or board member?
Yeah.
So if you click that correctly, which
Yeah.
I believe all of you did, it just sends you, and there are 2 different files I have,
Got
so
it.
there's no cross-pollination. They will see only their results tomorrow.
Yeah.
We will see only yours tonight.
So we see the kind of the.
And I like that
data
idea. I mean,
today.
I think that's outstanding.
I just wanted to, I get.
When we come back, you will
Feedback.
see everything. I mean, if you want to see what the graduates said, what the students said, what
Yeah.
the community, you will see it all. I mean, there's a lot there. It may be too much, but we'll try to give that to you ahead of time probably. Let you kind of analyze that, then we're going to come together and I'll try to help facilitate conversation around, okay, you know, as you read the data, what are you seeing are the 3 to 5 priorities? And then as I said, I'm really going to push you to move that down. What are the 3 most important priorities? And maybe there's really only 1 or 2. I don't know. That's going to be your call and not for me to determine.
So
We kind of thought the dream situation would be that each group kind of fell within the same.
Yes.
And you know, but we won't know that until we work
Right.
with this independently
Right.
of everyone
Right.
else, so.
But
So
we've
that-
been talking, communicating a lot, so
Yeah.
my guess is a lot
I
of them
think
will
they'll-
overlap.
I-
I'll be surprised. if
But
they
at the
don't.
end of tonight, we'll just have more of an about us. This is what we feel collectively are
Yeah.
our themes.
And why that's
I just want to
important,
be
just,
clear, thank you.
again, I talk experience like I'm really, I've written a book or something, we don't have none of that. The bottom line is you as a board have got to come to some conclusions that we're kind of on the same page here as a collective group, and that's where you need to, like I said tonight, I'll talk up front, you need to have that. And I know there's some time, at least in my mind, a time restraint if you're going to the game or whatever, so I want to be fair to that, but it'll all depend on how well you work. Process will be simply this, I'm not trying to keep anything from you. When I hand out the sheets, the first column, the first question that we asked was around what do you see as the unique strengths of the Gilbert Community School? We'll use that as a practice one because they're all good things. And what I'll ask you to do is individually kind of just read through them. You'll read a vertical piece, it goes, there's about 2 or 3 pages here. You'll read the vertical piece and then I want you to identify what am I hearing consistently from board members as to what they believe are the strengths of our district. And we'll practice that one. Then I'm going to ask you, and you can relocate your whatever, and I'm going to ask Lindsay if he would participate too, because he's only reacting to what's on the paper. He's not inputting. His input went with the administrative team. I'd ask 2 of you to take the second question, 2 of you to take the third, and 2 of you to take the fourth. Do the same kind of thing. Go through individually. What themes do you see there? Talk collectively. Then I'm going to ask you to present that to the rest of the board. We'll ask the board to look at it very quickly, and can you agree that you believe these are the themes under that particular question? That'll be our work tonight. I'll capture that, take it back to the work I do, plug it in the appropriate place. Tomorrow, same thing, administrators, plug it back in. Then we need to set a date to come back and really get after it. And so I think it's a good plan. I think the thing I like about it is that you're at that 30,000 foot level, which is good to give direction to the administrative team that are on the ground to operationalize what you believe is important. Fair enough? Okay, so that's kind of, if it isn't, I think we can all go home early. just teasing here.
So I'm the 5th member who did not fill this form in. I'll just confess that right now.
Okay, no need for testimonials. I you know, everybody's got what they've got, but and maybe you can put some input in, obviously, as we go through this.
Terrifying.
Oh, do that. Okay, so the first thing I'd like you to do is just individually, if you look at the, other than the first column, the board members' responses, that second column, if you just read vertically, this is vertically, not horizontally, and just see what themes are you saying that as a school board you feel are the unique strengths of the district. What, if any, themes are in there that you all believe? There may be some and there may not. Then obviously on the very last sheet you can just write them in that column. And we'll do this individually, and the other we're going to do collectively in pairs. Excuse me, would you mind if on this one, it'd be just this one, if you would write those down as they do them. It'll be a few minutes and stuff. I want to capture those to take back. Thank you. So, that's why there you go. That'll work. Just on answer. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. And what you have here, yeah, just have a general discussion. About a minute or two more, please. Again, if you could just jot down what you see as some things about what makes us who we are here in Gilbert and things that you might be proud of, and we'll kind of just share that. Gil's been kind enough to agree to jot down, or excuse me, write down those pieces. And then we'll move on to the other questions. Any way you want to do it. Okay.
One of those.
They're just tiny.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we please go ahead and finish your take your time.
Oh, I'm just copying it
Oh,
down
okay,
to the
that's
next
fine.
place.
Let's do a good practice one for us. So what kind of themes did you find as you read that over the course of all four of you that you feel would be? And as I said, Gail's going to jot some of these down and stuff. So what would be one theme? And as you hear these, I'd like you to say, yeah, that's definitely mine. Try to uncover those things that you no need to repeat them. So if there's something new. So time to start with you, sir. I hate to start around, but we'll
That's right.
next one of them.
Yeah, highly educated community.
Okay, thank you. If you've got that, we'll just scratch it. If not, we'll go on and pick the second one, please, sir.
Learning is a priority.
Okay. Lindsay?
Academic strengths.
Motivated and innovative staff.
We'll slow down for you, Gail, a little bit.
Oh, sorry, Gail.
You're great. We got the right person on this. I can see she's just knocking it out.
Motivated and
Innovative?
innovative.
Okay, Deb, round the corner.
I put engaged community.
Okay. We can tie some of those together.
Iowa State.
I'm sorry.
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Mhm.
Iowa State. Okay, that's a good thing. Everybody has that. We'll just reverse it now so you have a chance, Kim, to get something else up there. And if you don't have one, just pass. That's fine. No problem.
I've got growth.
Okay. That would be economic, population, all of the above.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Deb, anything else?
I didn't.
Okay, fair enough. Right?
I have nothing else. I'm curious about Iowa State. Like, what is this?
Okay.
What is this? How would you like combine the strength component of Iowa State? Or are we doing that later? Sorry, I just.
No, that's fine.
No, I think with them, they're a resource that we have to use. I'm just trying to tie in comments that we've got here, so. But a couple of us mentioned that. So.
I didn't say, when you said Iowa State, I kind of crossed out, I had a small town setting with larger town opportunities.
Okay,
That's like what I was,
Put her on there, you bet.
like, I thought that was what.
But right, so I agree with that, but I think it's almost unique too, that, I mean, here we are that close to a well-established university, right? We're nationally recognized, so coming from Northwest Iowa, well, there wasn't that, right? So.
Hey, coming from Colfax Bingo, there isn't that. I mean, that's that.
Right.
That is a blessing. It really is. Brian, did you have another one? Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
Lindsay?
No.
Okay. Round the horn we
No,
go.
that gets all mine.
Okay,
Me too.
good. Obviously then, again, let me just, so as a board, you recognize the following, which I think you'll find pretty consistent, bless your heart, thank you, that you said some of the unique strengths are highly educated community. I want you to just look at this list. This is not a list I normally see in a lot of communities that I work with. So the first 3 or 4 that came up here, I'm like, holy cow, because I would agree with it. I would agree with them. But I'll tell you what, I would really be shaking your tree a little bit if you didn't see this as a real foundational piece on which to build these priorities. Because you'll find that many of what you're going to read when I give you the whole down will be in here. So highly educated community, learning is a priority, academic strengths, motivated and innovative staff, engaged community, ISU being growth opportunities around small town, large opportunities, growth, economic, population, and small town setting. I'm sorry, it's down here. Big town opportunities. So how do you feel about your list? We won't do this with everyone, okay? Have we missed anything that you think or something that you would put? This is the feel-good one on all the groups. This is when you got a chance to toot your horn. So I was anxious to see what's that horn going to sound like when you get to blow it. And so this is a pretty impressive list.
The only thing in this, my own personal bias probably, but within Iowa State even, just to further tease that out, Brian, is the ag part, right? So, I mean, we're a small town with still a lot of agriculture. And Iowa State is a land grant university with lots of agriculture where you're talking about crops and livestock that I think are an opportunity for project-based learning here, which, I mean, that's a little bit of the direction we're going. So.
Thank you, Bart. Anything else we're missing? Okay, so this will go in. Okay, so this is where we go next. That's kind of what it's going to be tonight, and a good conversation that comes with that. So what I need to do is, you see, we have 3 other questions that you determined you wanted us to ask. The second column is, what do you perceive to be potential areas of growth or improvement for Gilbert Community School District? Third question, where would you like to see the Gilbert Community School District focus its efforts over the next 3 to 5 years? And the last question we asked was, what does a Gilbert Community School graduate need to know and be able to do? What I need the 6 of you to do is determine in groups of 2, which of those questions would you like to do the same thing with? Individually, then collectively, to come up with the priorities that you would share with the group. The group will respond and react to what you come up with. We'll set a final list of this is what the board believes. So is there one that particularly kind of rang your bell and said, yep, I want to work on that one? Or do I just have your number off and we'll put you together?
I don't have a preference.
Can you make your little groups? I don't need, you know, what?
I think
You work together here?
Kim and I are going to pick one.
I don't know about, I like 3.
Question number 3, which would be the Which one of the questions? Because there's 4 questions.
Oh,
It
sorry,
would be
the
the last
third of
one.
our.
Okay, so the last one about what they
Does
need
that
to
work?
know and be able to do.
Okay.
Okay, got that one covered.
This one or this one?
Who else is together?
This one.
Okay, gotcha.
Who else wants to work together?
John.
Okay, I like this dance across the table.
Yes.
Which one would you like?
Let's do it.
All right.
I don't care.
Go ahead and speak. Yep.
I mean, this is the
The
first.
potential
one.
areas of growth, okay,
Okay.
potential areas of growth. Gentlemen, you're going to partner up because that's the way it came out, and you're going to take the focus on the efforts over the next 3 to 5 years, okay? I'd like you to do it individually first, so we have a chance for your input, and I'd like you, when you're ready, to come together and have a conversation to come up with 3 or 4 priorities that you see in the column that you select, okay? And then we're going to put those on big sheets, and we'll talk about those, and we'll be good.
So these are our notes, right?
Yes.
Like the fact that I'm not using the right format.
No, you're doing great. Yeah. Oh,
I'm not certain this is
And then, yeah, I think you're good. You've already described which Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't realize these were sticky. Now I know.
John, can we switch ours?
What's that?
Once you've done it individually, then you get together with your partner, and you can spread out around the room if you like, whatever. come up with what you believe in your column are the priorities based upon what you said to each other. And we'll have you report out.
You want me to bring the cookies?
Yeah, cookies.
No, I've still got a couple to fill in here.
Yep.
Bring one around here.
I got it. Smarter than that.
John, let me know when you're ready.
Okay,
I just have ideas.
okay.
This has got the biggest splotch.
Yeah, are you creating
I
a
think
word
Brian
on there?
had some good ones.
I don't know. Just start that. Can
What?
put them in.
I know.
Yeah.
Put your head down. When you're done, put your head down. Just keep.
You want to engage into project-based learning with me? Oh, wait, you're doing the
I didn't see that one.
There's a sneaker in there.
What do you think?
I don't know where this one fits. I had it all built into 4 beautiful categories, and this little sucker's down here.
I think Jim's trying to close the curve.
Oh.
What do you think? Should we go over here? Sure. Or you can go over here, I suppose. There's room.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did. I couldn't fit them in there, so I just put them up.
What do you think of some
Oops, I'm
things
sorry.
that you really see?
So,
At first, I
So,
really busy
again,
on
I
myself.
guess-
Many different things.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta
The
try
way
to
this is
jump
project-based
a little
learning.
bit at the end, so.
Strongly
First
dislike
what
that phrase, but that's
like
in
this.
The reason I dislike
Why
it
do you like
is,
it?
the reason I dislike, I love
She gave me
it.
these
It's
glasses
like
and
the
they have a
phrase
big
is so
splotch in
coded.
it.
Like, it can mean so
Increase
many
in
things to so
I
many.
saw that there's a couple of ways.
Like, oh, it's
to
big
upsell,
demonstration
like,
word
from
frameworks.
ways
Right?
to
We gotta
actually
work on
educate
words in the
ways to
table fine,
get
right? But like, when we think
better
about it,
engagement.
communicate
So,
better.
Because when you go out to the patrons, they don't have any.
professionals.
Well, I don't even know.
Manage that.
I
The other
think
is,
the same thing when you're
making
project-based
sure
learning.
you
You know,
get
we're thinking like,
input
you
from
cross like
Yeah,
external events.
yeah, it doesn't have to be.
require
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think of like collaboration, and like cross-discipline, and that, you
The
know.
other one was.
I don't know, whatever. I think of those ideas. Anyway, so that's obviously in here.
Yep.
Mhm.
Right, that notion, but I really want to find a way for us to get
Maybe
comfortable.
different phrase.
No,
And then
like, what if
this
we
kind
can,
of
like,
way
for the
of,
next 2 years, change
the
project-based
ways
learning in this
He's been
room?
hearing.
Like, how do you talk about that?
Not
That'd be a really fun
ways,
exercise.
like.
Mhm.
Not that we should do it, but
I would agree. I had that one
It's
down
only
also.
one person.
But then
that's a big one.
here,
I
making
think
sure
there's
that
a
we
piece
are,
of it
this
in
was
that
kind of
those
where I
like
was coming from.
sort of like
I don't, I certainly don't want to
expression.
put it in.
I'm not sure if those are
Like,
like
your
words,
demonstration
you know,
competency,
those are
right?
just
Like,
gonna be
moving
like
on.
that.
Yeah.
What about you, maybe
Only
you
our
have a
test
better
takers,
way
like,
of.
how do you?
Well,
do that? So I
kind
kind
of all the same
Yeah,
thing,
those
so
two
it's kind of like words, not a.
Yeah.
So I have,
I put down, and I talked a lot about career writing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that sometimes what we have to
So I
do
said,
as well in Brandon
you
is
know, we need to better
that
leverage our education.
some of our kids are
So
on track, they want to go.
that
maybe
probably
to
goes
the
with
children
being more
They're
in our
also
intentional
people that want to something
Yep.
that might be
Yep.
So,
Agreed.
so to me,
And
that's,
I think that we got to make sure that we don't make those
Yes.
kids feel like that's anything
so I'm
inferior.
gonna put that here, and
That's,
it's like,
there's people that
how do we be
will hire
intentional
all kinds of
about that?
electricians. They're making
And
good
so I
money,
choose to.
almost as much as they
I don't,
It's accurate, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I just put career
Yep, yep.
ready.
Right.
Yeah, so I had the same thing.
and that, you know,
I
in
wrote,
communities,
reading
you know,
Gilbert,
we might be
everything
more
more
with
than
what
just
you said
more
about,
than,
you
so
know,
college and
you know,
other
whatever those
Yeah.
talented.
Right.
So maybe that's what you mean, you know, I think they're the same words
Yeah.
I agree.
in there, like, yeah,
Because they
so
might
something
say,
around
say
like the
community
end
strength,
goal just can't
well,
be
what-
Right, which one's, I
So you
think
might
it's
want,
kind of.
so we might get
I
a
put
better
focus
word
on the whole student. Did you see where they said that?
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think, what does
To
that
how
mean?
we get at
To me, I
this,
kind of bucket that
leverage
into.
by
Yeah,
state,
smart
or do you
people,
think
it
that-
could,
yeah,
it could just be
PBL stuff.
a little bit.
But I think you're right, I think it probably is worth taking out, like,
Talent.
like, I'd be curious. I'm not a road guy.
What does that necessarily
Is that like
mean by
mental
that?
health thing?
Because
Or is it just like social skills?
Right.
And, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
what-
Right.
Well, with other-
I would hope
Right.
that we
Right.
know combination of all that we
Right.
need, because,
Community,
you know,
what
there's,
better leverage?
I mean,
What do we
there's a lot of things that go into teaching.
Yeah, so how about
The
you said
talent
better?
is within the community.
Yeah,
Or
better
something like
And
that.
I don't think that we
Yeah,
can
better
become more
leverage.
dimensional,
We're in the
that's
position
why
to help
I think
them
we
figure
have
out
to hold them
where their
and
strengths
see
are.
where,
Do you
what
want to
is
say
it that we can do to help them.
Stakeholders.
Maybe it is mental health, maybe it is, you know, looking for that career readiness, maybe it is, you know, expanding.
Can we even say, just say better leverage talent pools?
What else do you have?
within the community?
Yeah.
Or something like
I
that,
wrote-
within stakeholder
the
community.
talent
It's all our
diverse
responsibility.
world, or more diverse world.
I wondered if you were gonna say something.
Because I think, right, like,
Of the district.
I think it's,
What does that mean to you?
So,
yeah, so that's
direct,
I
I
don't know.
put in like
I like
problem
this, I like
solving
your
is
talent.
so hard.
Yeah.
Well, better leverage
Without,
talent pool, what did you say?
I
District stakeholders?
Well,
Yeah, because that's,
Yeah.
now that could go lots of ways,
You know, not.
But now, what,
is
the
hard.
one thing about this one is that
Substantive,
this
like a-
is tough, like this one.
Big in a meaningful enough way that they're like,
So,
like, get it beyond reading collaboration, right? So I think
Yeah.
I actually don't have a program for this. The only thing I can think
Oh,
of
yeah,
is
to say.
is partnering with Iowa State and
Okay,
hiring more
I wasn't
diversity.
sure.
More diversity.
Yeah.
You know,
What
like,
about
like,
this?
so
Really
I don't,
just
that I don't,
sticking.
you know.
Because we have there or we're in their backyard or whatever
I
you
also-
say, and
I don't know that
they
would
make
be-
our diversity is not,
would be just.
I just
That
didn't
would
know
be a
if
way
district
to do it, you know.
stakeholders.
I did, I put
Or do you
diversity.
But I don't
think
think
it
it
is, or should we
I
be?
think, no, very.
No, I mean, what's the
I mean,
difference
that's
between
just to like
district
amplify
and
the underrepresented
Well, I was
voices.
at the
And, you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Of-
The word
Yeah,
I use
right,
that
I
word
wouldn't-
is
I
Because
think it
it's-
is.
sponsoring, right? So if you hear.
Just so parents know.
Right,
underrepresented
right.
It's really.
Well, so that's like my only concern.
Try to kind of amplify that so it
What
has,
does that mean?
it has the awareness.
Is it too narrow? Yeah, so
of
is
the
it
majority
like,
view.
do you want to narrow?
Not
it
because
down?
it
What do
has
you
more
say?
importance.
And people they
And I
know.
was just thinking,
You know, the kids engage,
Yeah.
ideas, but I think, you know, without that amplification,
What
it
if
kind of
it's
gets
kids?
lost in the, in sort of the average.
because it may be just-
So I don't, I mean,
So just
I'm
something
not
that's in
everyone,
this
but that's
district.
how
Yeah.
No, but it's good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of almost this.
I think, again,
Self-awareness.
the other one where it's like, ability to collaborate and communicate with peers. Is that when we say project-based learning, is that included in that? I don't know, but.
It can, but I think it maybe needs to be pulled out. I put down some words there, Brian. And
What I wrote,
it could be, you know, they talk about critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creative communication.
The people and the people.
Why do you, when you say critical
And
thinking,
the only thing that I think about is like, what about, and I just know
because it's two words right here that are really nice to write down.
But
But
what do
like,
they mean?
Because
And how do you get to have?
yeah, I actually think
Let's say
encouraging
that
that
there's
process
some
is super
changes.
messy.
Let's do this.
In a good way, right? Like,
Yeah.
And it's not
like,
this
critical
person
thinking means like, I
is
give you
traits.
one
I feel
expression,
like
like, I give you the
they-
freedom
when they
to argue
consider
with me
themselves in that,
respectfully.
is all
like,
I'm saying, we're gonna
So maybe.
challenge me.
skills. The
How about
skills.
this?
Yep.
Yeah.
To, I think another part of it is like minimizing some of the titles or
That's what I like your-
differences between say research and then seeing you
Better
guys have
leverage
skills
the
dash or
special-
something where like
special
we're humans
assessment.
with ideas and thinking. We're not like, well, I am 18,000 years old.
Patrons and the people they know.
Listen to my
Right,
ideas.
of
Right,
district
right.
stakeholders
Yeah, of
and
districts.
community.
I think
Or
it's
should we
being
say
able to
Yeah, in the wider community.
And wider.
Like if you have a belief
People- The idea is,
Special talents of districts.
on something that you can stand
Because I
behind
think it could
and articulate to people why it is that you feel that that's the right way to do it. Now, maybe I'm not saying that in a way that you would agree with, but I just think that sometimes I think it's too easy just to say,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll agree with Brian, I think Brian has some good ideas.
I do.
Whereas
I do like
I may
that.
have my own ideas, they may be a little bit different than some of the rest of my friends, but still I think that you should be able to go ahead and
Yeah, and
express
people in the
those
wider community.
in a respectful
I don't know
way.
that it needs to be.
Yeah.
But be able to, like, that's what I would hope that you get some diversity to. And again, I don't know.
Well, I think it's critical.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I like-
the market
I like-
don't have a really diverse
Okay.
perspective. It's a perspective based.
Not like
Surface
self-awareness,
stuff. You know, because if you and I are like, arguing, like, hey, where do you go to church on Sunday?
It
Blah, blah,
was
blah.
create more
That's just like
engagement.
a
So
super,
I got a lot of
small
them
slice
into
of
this.
it. For someone's like, I think
My
it's
church.
stupid.
No, that's fine.
Create more engagement.
Man, like, now I'm realizing,
IT
this
that.
is like, my conversation space got so much bigger now, I like think about it, right?
Right.
Kind of goes in.
I think the other one that was in here too that I really hadn't thought a lot about at this level, because it's not student focused, it's around that leadership development of our staff. And I think like, well, I don't know if
Collaboration.
If we like that, but maybe maybe we don't need that.
at like
But
a district
create more
level, because it's
engagement.
not, this higher district
Iowa State.
is not necessarily
Yeah,
like
but
engaged with
this
that,
one
right?
almost-
But like certainly for you and the admins, like you've turned in, like developing their leadership and then
It's an IT
their
teacher.
leadership.
I think it should be someplace in there.
But I
I
think
don't
saying
know where it
IT
falls.
specific
Maybe it doesn't
Yeah.
fall
is
into
kind of
3 to 5.
So,
It could fall into
how is
something,
this,
you know,
so
something
if we talk, I like this
bullets
word,
below.
Yeah.
how is and better language?
Then the one we just talked about.
I think that's, oh, and the other one I have is all of this, all
I
of this.
think it, I think it, I think it
Engaging
actually
this
flows
with our
into
patrons.
this. So this one's really.
I think that, again, for example.
Have you even said,
this
this
is
is
not
like
gonna get you any problems.
of outside folks, and this is.
That word,
This-
there's a phrase, that phrase I should say.
Here.
I would have just, I would think if you kind of.
And I think that a lot of people think that it's like you said, it's that capstone project. You know, I know that Virginia works on that. This, and that's
So
fine.
now this
It
is.
doesn't have to be a big to-do. It could be something that could be a very
Right now.
Yeah,
Somehow
exactly,
not
exactly.
as big
And I
a
think
deal
that
as
we're kind
that.
of
So
talking about
yeah,
these two things.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And how do we overlap them?
Right,
You know, how do you
because
do
there would be students that are interested in.
What do we do? I
Just
mean,
something.
Yeah.
we are.
Which basically is like,
I'll do it.
Right,
And we don't have
Yes.
anybody that's talented in
I
it because
suppose
it's,
that, you know, as we look at
I think
hybrid,
that whatever the thing
that
that
could be
is,
some of the
Yeah.
things
you know how
that
they
we
got
look
across,
at.
technology flowing up.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So the idea
I think the
is
biggest
there
area,
are
I think you have
somebody was
two big areas of
people
control.
in our district
Hiring.
but from spending.
This is
And I think that you can do it in a really gross way, you can do it in a really
Because why? Because they're in some.
Like if you, for example, set up.
Yeah, just, yeah.
I don't know,
Something
how would you
else
say
that
that works?
No.
I do.
We can debate
because
that,
I
people
feel
listening
like
might think I'm an idiot
trying to
for
think of how to
throwing that idea
I
out.
do
I
kind
think
of
like,
think that, like,
what I've
I
been
think that
doing
it's-
this the
I
last
do
3
think
years,
that it's
like,
kind of
that's
interesting
that
to
logic.
capture
We
the
no one's feel super
separate
creative about the.
Yes.
themes,
Because
but then to
that's
show
why I want to
them
hire
like
someone
those
where
ideas.
And then how
it feels gross as
Yeah.
so I've heard that feels gross as the hire.
Leadership.
And then
So that
the
there's
organization
of
of that, you're not necessarily optimizing.
Does that
Student
answer your
success.
question?
No,
Yeah.
you're optimizing for
So
like
this
a
is-
metric, it's just a factor. So I think what we can work, I think is we don't start the instant process or we always select something in the process to be sufficiently diverse.
You don't even get it.
So,
And
we're
then,
really
well,
making
so
sure
start
applicants are
with
diverse. And then out of, say, there's like
everything's doing
there's
Yeah.
like 300 applicants, right?
Right.
So then we pick like,
Right.
so we push this like
Yeah.
process
Right.
15 of them.
So it's
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't know how old.
But that could probably.
Well,
I think if Kafka would
It's
say.
not in the corner of the
Yeah.
bathroom, but you are gonna get your work, I'll tell you that.
I appreciate it.
I had to put in there when I had the cough to go look.
Because I'm developing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the
so
next
like,
person.
the next
Yes,
person
my
is gonna be a
question
leader
would be,
until we can push
um,
it
Yeah.
far down the
You know,
organization.
how do we,
Can.
how do we
Yeah.
pick
Because
that
what our
up?
students
Because
are
in
student-led.
right now,
Why is that?
we're building at like 65.
Yeah.
Not all,
Yeah.
but the ones that are validated. So I don't have that.
That's
all.
No.
That's how.
That's
And
huge.
then I do, see, I
So
like these
what we
ones,
did
just like, I
was,
like this idea
again,
of better leveraging the talent. I
don't
think
know
we
that-
create
I
more
wouldn't,
engagement.
I read
I
through
think,
the
but I'm
different
thinking also,
processes.
we're probably just mentioning it instead of just talking about what's
The rest of
wrong.
it. No.
So, but, I think that's right. We did.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not looking for a quota there, I'm looking at filling it.
So,
with
but
the
we
best
can, we can.
person.
So we can sum it up.
I think it's,
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of comes down to.
Increase student engagement. I do think like, so
You can't just like ask for this
the one thing I
person to
might
tail end this process.
change about
Sorry,
this
because
is
like,
like,
you have to do this all the time.
I did this when
You
I talked
gotta
about,
get
oh, I
knowledge
can,
that
so
having
just,
diversity
Yeah,
and
totally.
tolerance is really good.
So like,
Second, then, you know, maybe the next step
so I
might be
think,
like,
so
there's
what
ways
I'm
to write our
advising is
job
create more engagement.
posting in a way that
The
can
student led, I was
encourage
talking about, which means.
underrepresented
wasn't the
people
right word.
apply. And likewise, you can write things that sort of isolate them or force them out. And so, again, as like a white male in the tech industry, I have to work really hard to have a good help. Hey, dude, I just raised to hire like another me.
So that's all I meant, is that's what I meant about this, the engagement and the student
during this
rep.
interview process.
Because, and then,
I think it's right, and then how can you?
So for example, like a lot of the beginning up to a bunch of interactions, we try hard not to like see their face.
You know what,
It's weird, right? I mean, like,
but so how do we address this idea
I guess we have a kind of a script
about
in
because
front
they
of
do
us, so that I'm not just hiring.
have.
So if we had
Because
to
that
type
stuff
this
just
in,
happens
it's
and it creeps in and it influences how you think about
so if we had to write these.
It's so hard. It's a good question. It does not sort of tickle your biases, right? I don't just mean like hiring. Like I'm saying, like I'm gonna hire someone like, oh, you like
To create
running
an
outside the
engagement
snow? So
listed
bad.
as that, right? I don't know, maybe
And I think once you get through there, you have
around, I would say like through.
5 people we're gonna bring in to do like a real thorough interview with, and you
Yeah, okay, yeah, I like
are sort of like representing a pretty decent diverse crew, and then someone can pressure us on. You just got hired this one.
Do you want me to
So
write
you
this?
say, I write it backwards, I can look at that.
Yeah, I will. I'll have to rewrite it.
So everyone kind of can do it different on their own as long as sort of the process is vetted. For me,
And I'm assuming.
I do email, then I do a phone screen to make sure that one,
But I'm using
there's
page
the most lightweight version, like you're not lying on your resume and you're still interested in the job I'm talking to you about.
Yep.
Then the next level is going to be a technical interview in which we basically make sure that they can do the, like they meet
Is
the
that a
requirements.
face-to-face?
All of it is due like,
Or is that like
at this
Zoom
point it
or
goes to
Skype?
like Zoom video call.
Right.
And that's again, low pressure but high expectation, meaning like you take this thing home, you have 4 days to complete it, it should take about an hour. And the process is not like you pass it all, it's more like how did you think about solving this problem, it's a conversation. And then after that, they'll typically, maybe based on the seniority, like that always happens, but then based on the seniority, like you may interview around like time for you to ask us questions like, hey, here's 3 of your possible coworkers, like let's just chat, you know. And then I think if you're going to be a manager of people, you meet with the people who you're going to manage, and they get to ask you questions. You have this question, like, we're like, hey, you're scheduled for an hour-long call, and here's next questions we're going to ask you.
So you don't do any face-to-face?
Not anymore.
Really? Is that to save time?
I've worked, it saves
And that doesn't
money.
always
It-
work.
it-
Passion is
it-
really
it-
right, right?
So
it's
it's really
biased.
What year that is.
Having a human interaction is so rich, it's really hard to like compare that to phone calls, right? So again, I'm trying to hire the best person, not necessarily the person I can see, right?
Really lends
I've worked
itself
with a gal for like
location.
8 months.
Yeah.
I just met her last week.
Oh, really?
And we talk all the time on the computer and on Zoom
Yeah.
calls.
Yes.
But just like we were on meetings and afterwards, a big team of us went out to get drinks and dinner, and like just that interaction was so different.
Sure.
Like the workplace
So do we
interaction.
need to?
So yeah, we don't do any face-to-face. I think, sorry, let's back up. If they're hiring at like the VP or above level, they will be face-to-face.
Is that what you are as a VP?
Small guy.
Yeah, there's something to that.
How about a couple more minutes and then we'll report out if you're ready. If you're not, this is.
That's fine, I just like to talk a little bit.
Yeah,
Are these supposed to be
I
wordsmithed pretty closely?
I'm sorry.
Are we trying to get to that kind of a list? Are they supposed to be wordsmithed pretty well?
State budget.
Sorry.
When we say diverse hires.
Don't make it too challenging.
Yeah.
It is about 6 o'clock.
And
That's
I
right.
have
Right?
some of my team, like, no idea, or like, hey, I want to go to a whole system. It's a foundation-based conversation, but they're at a place where like, that baseline awareness and foundation of like fluency in these ideas is so high, that they're really rich conversations. But I think, again, like, you look at this groundwork that was like 4 years ago, kind of getting.
Really makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely, because if you just were handed a thing like hire this way, and you didn't understand why, or you have this thing, so you're not going to bust your butt to
These are
make it
just, we're just
happen.
capturing the
So
notes, not trying to
there's really two
lead
or three
anything
people
out
that
too much.
really pushing this
Right.
initiative for the last couple of years, and it's made, well, one, statistically it's made a giant difference, but I think just like in a personal awareness that like everyone is comfortable being as to why this is good. It's not just a discussion of like,
That's an impressive ball.
It's all the time to have the broadest perspective to actually a problem.
Yes.
Since we
You know, I don't want a lot of people like me, that would make, I would have a blast.
That makes sense.
But it's not gonna get, it's not gonna get a great outcome, right? You already got, like, you get done, we gave her out, right?
Wow.
And that's why I think when we look at things, when we looked at our.
Or in
first
Friday.
You don't want to hire another
I
kid,
would
better look at people.
probably
I mean, hold on.
So what we do is we have our initiative team in there, and there's a variety of people.
That would be a challenge to everybody, that would get full.
Some have personalities, and some have, whatever type
Yeah,
of
because,
personality.
like,
The point is, that if I wanted a cookie cutter, I could find a cookie cutter, or I could find a cookie cutter. We want someone that's gonna bring something more to our team.
Yeah. Well, and you can do all this, and you still have really hard,
Private, you know,
right? Like,
is it-
all this stuff is sort of at another dimension,
Yep.
sort of like their particular competency in that field.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to get a drink of water here before we get yelled at again.
Very good, son.
And I don't feel like we captured this.
Did you get the right answers?
I did, I think we nailed it.
Yes.
Come on early, man.
So we got the two analysts that are going way deep here.
I know,
Over here?
I know.
Yeah.
They got like
Oh, they're in it.
checks and balances happening.
Analyst.
They've established a whole like program here. of how-
Yeah, they got an algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
They're getting after you a little bit.
You're doing great, y'all, but anytime.
Go ahead, well, we don't have to go first.
Okay,
You keep working.
Okay, does everybody have enough time to do it? I most certainly will. It's kind of interesting sitting back again, and I was checking some email, to be honest, because I'm way behind. But anyway, listening to your conversation, the level of engagement is exactly where this board should be, so we compliment you on that. What we're going to do try now is to see what you came up with, analyzing that particular column or that particular question that you think you've got priorities that the individual members have set forth in doing that. Okay, I'd like you to listen, but then before we move to the next one, I'm going to ask you to go, if this wasn't your question, to go back and look at read them again and say, wait a minute, I think we've left this out, or I think we need to, whatever, so that we get a firm conversation with that. In fact, let me do this, let me switch that a little bit. Would you take time, please, if you did not do, what do you perceive to be the potential areas of growth? If you did not do that question, would you read that column, please, now, just for a minute or two? See if you see some things in there, then we'll let you folks tell us what we should have seen. Okay? So again, if you just read that question, we'll work with it first.
You guys are still working on yours, aren't you?
ours was meaty. No.
Yeah.
There was a lot of meaty
Well,
parts.
first, we made the mistake of solving it.
Yeah.
We just wrote down what was on. So we didn't know how.
We got a little excited,
Yeah,
sorry.
You got, we call these things.
But we controlled ourselves. Let's see. Yes, that's good.
Are you-
Yeah,
Oh.
You guys better make sure that you hit everything.
that's good. What if we just read the whole thing so that there was... Is he sick? Scooch over.
Or Lindsay, I feel terrible for you.
I just have a tickle in my
Think
throat.
about his teammate, y'all.
Is there
Yeah,
Is
like
there a
you.
lot at the school? A lot of people out at the school. Schools, is it been like it was? Remember a couple years ago?
They really have
Wait a minute, we were
that
at
much.
school.
We have school, we were out.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to go. Now
Not
it's all
here.
coming back together, right?
Yeah.
Not like the holidays. The holidays are, around the holidays were pretty bad. Right before, coming back. But that's normal, the environment.
Everybody had a chance? Okay. So I believe this group, right? You guys had a question? Or,
Are you talking about
Areas of growth?
Yeah.
Okay.
The second column?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that.
So why don't you tell us what you
Oh,
came
our
up with
conversation,
priorities?
That's good.
Those of you that are here, I'd like you just to listen to what they've come up with. We'll record what they've come up with. Of question will be, do you think that this was a theme? And two, what potential theme did they miss in their work? So, then any questions and conversation around that we'd like. So please.
Okay, so I've got a question. Do you want me to write it down after we discuss the theme and then I write it down?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do that. So you have to listen carefully.
Okay.
So give us one, Deb, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, so one was better leverage special talents, district stakeholders, and people in wider community.
Okay. So better leverage.
Are you done? Now move on.
Yeah, let's just hold on to that one just a little bit. Let's read it again, if you would, please.
Better leverage special talents of district stakeholders and people in wider community. So Grant, do you want us to tell you where we?
And that would be a potential area of growth. I'll just keep saying that.
Yeah, better leverage. We want a better leverage.
Better leverage is what we want.
We got that from in the first box.
Okay.
Their willingness to reach out to leverage folks outside of the school district to leverage their talents. And then there was another that talked about relevance and like tracks, so that's why we did that. We might have wordsmithed it a little too much. Maybe.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Please, no, that's exactly right.
Because I agree. I read that and I think something similar. But I was like, the more I've been reading this, like this "we're the best" attitude and talking to other like non-district people that know about Gilbert, like there's sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a little bit of a reluctance to kind of like admit the stuff we really got to work on. You know, and I don't know if
That
that's
could be
encoded,
Well,
right?
I
Yeah,
do have,
that could be
so one that's coming up, Brian, that see if you think this addresses it, and I wanted to kind of put it's probably to create a culture of leaders developing leaders. And so the idea by that is you know, if we were to dig into what that means, and that just means that a good leader, and we have good leaders, so I don't want to, I'm just saying, how do we take it to the next level? And so the idea would be, it would be listening, it would be creating feedback loops for continuous improvement. I mean, intentional, not that we don't have these things now. I think we have these to a degree, but I'm just, you know, bumping the intentionality of it. The idea is we have open office time. We push that down as low as we can go into the organization what we're doing right now is built into the DNA of what we do. It's the idea of how do we have the leadership in place that what Brian said goes away from the thing is we're always asking, how can we do it better? How can we do it better? Please come to my office and say how we can do this better. With that just breeding that into the culture, I don't know how to explain that. And so this whole idea of we're really about wanting to do it that way. And the reason why this is going to be so important is because the speed of change that we're talking about with artificial intelligence is going to, the time to shorten it, we're going to have to be faster. And so the idea is how do we create that leadership culture of, now I'm not just worried about my own leadership, is actually we're leaders developing leaders so that these students we're turning them into being leaders. And so they're going to have to lead their own, you know, this is what I really love to do. Okay, we're going to teach them how to lead in that area. And so that's kind of
And so if I hear you, and I'm going to take a little bit if I can with this one, so what I hear you saying, that you gave a number of components, but a culture of leadership. And my question back, does that or does that not exclude the board?
Oh, I think it definitely includes.
Okay. When you talk about, my point is that that's a broad definition, but it's part of the culture means from everyone who's an elected official of the community, to those that serve the community, to the children who learn in the community. So that's the broad piece that I'll always push you to. Is it really truly a cultural piece, or do we just put it in a little piece? Nothing, I'm not challenging what you said.
No, but I think it's good, and what my experience would be is we're really worried about, okay, you got to go to the teacher first, and you got to go to the principal, and then you got to go to the superintendent. Well, what we really, you know, ideally is you know, we're just looking for feedback all the time, and we just process feedback, and we're not afraid of where it comes from. Now, that could be Pollyanna in the context of a school board, just from the standpoint of everybody's throwing hand grenades, and it could be a disaster. But if we could get to the stage, of if we think it could work, because the one thing about it is I work in banking and education is different, but that overriding theme of how do we just have feedback loops of how we do it better without it derailing what Lindsay's trying to accomplish here as a superintendent.
Okay.
And
So I've heard kind of
maybe
two-
rather than leverage, we're really also talking about not only leveraging it, but accepting it and incorporating it as well. You know what I mean? Maybe that better
If it's
captures,
good.
maybe that, because again, we're just trying to capture these themes. And so if it's along what he said, I think when we said better leverage, we were not maybe encompassing all of that. I think it's not, it's leveraging the talents, the special talents, but also being accepting of new ways of doing things from people outside and incorporating that, kind of having an ear out, always having an ear open, right? Or ear out, what do you say, that ear open?
Yeah, I think, I like that a lot.
Something.
Okay.
So I think we have to, maybe, do you agree with that? That we just.
Just better leveraging all the strengths of the community.
Yeah.
Whether, I mean.
But it's not just leveraging them by saying, hey, let's have somebody come in and show these guys how to do it. It's also, hey, making sure that we have feedback. We're listening to the community. We're not just saying, listen, you're not in education, you don't get it.
Right.
And closing the door. Maybe that's more of the theme of that. I don't know.
And then what I'm hearing you say is basically, now we've changed to listening, which is fine, but what we're saying is a community of learners, including the board, including administration, including the students, everybody in
I
the
like that.
I like that.
We become
That's,
a
I think
community.
that's more
We
encompassing
become a
of
community
it.
of listeners, or a
Yeah.
culture of listening.
Yeah.
And see, that way we're not pointing out that one group
Yeah.
is responsible,
Yeah.
collectively,
Yeah, I
we're
like
all
that.
responsible.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of priority. If that comes out to be one of your three,
Yeah.
that would be one we develop. So I won't do this to every one of them, but what I'm trying to do is set
No,
you
help
up.
us.
No, keep speeding
going.
us up, that's good.
Yeah.
I hate to set you up for the next meeting, but these are the challenges I'll give you, because when we come down to nailing the three priorities,
Yeah.
I want to make sure, does this include you, does it not include you, is it targeted here, targeted there? So
Yeah.
you probably disinvite me at that meeting, but if we're going to get something out of it, it's got to be that way. So well done. Are there any other priorities you saw that you would like to put on the table for the group?
We did, sorry. We created more student engagement, or, increased student engagement through more relevant tracks and vocational opportunities. And then we indicated, like, probably we went too far, but talking about privately and through businesses and as well as through ISU. The other two were increased exposure to diversity and inclusion, better inclusion.
Okay, good.
Does that? did
Any
you feel like I
thoughts from
captured that?
anyone?
I kind
Did
of,
they miss anything? I know we haven't put them up yet, but you can tell there'll be a lot of scribbling here and there as conversation goes on.
Can you say the last one again?
inclusion. I just said, we had increased exposure to diversity and increased inclusion, or better inclusion. Inclusion was more around the idea that family involvement across.
So is there a way to phrase this that isn't about benefiting the majority by getting a minority view, but actually giving voice and dignity to the minority?
Yeah, we just didn't, as you heard, we could have gone on a long time, like we didn't really work.
Does that make sense?
That might be
One
a
is
better
like, I
word
just
for
want to
it.
like observe these people and learn from them, like as the majority looking to the underrepresented, as opposed to like, how do we give them like, make this a great place that they love too?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to word that
That
at
could
all.
be it. Like I said, we were just looking at the responses given and trying to create themes. So I didn't see that there. That might have been in the fifth respondent's comments that didn't make it on this page.
That could be, yeah, it's super fair. I did not.
Just
No, I think it's graphical.
I want it,
I
but
think
should we,
it's
I think
in
we should
there.
add, I mean, if that's. we
No,
should put that there.
unless, sorry, and we probably have time to like fancy up all the words
Yes.
later. I just want to think, I guess I'm like asking around about this because we have stuff about diversity too, and oftentimes I default to thinking, how do I benefit from different views? As
Yeah.
opposed to, how do I make sure people who have different views than me also feel very welcome here,
Got it.
right?
And that's
a-
two different,
I
that's two
think
different.
so.
Different things, yeah.
Yeah.
This was more diversity or exposure to diversity from both a cultural and socioeconomic perspective. So that was mine, that was my response. And my thinking behind it when I wrote that was, we are maybe not as diverse as many communities are, but our students will go out into that world, and how do we make that,
Yeah.
not
Easier for them.
easier for them and better for them, and just say, hey, listen, this is what life outside of Gilbert is like. That was the intention when I wrote it,
Yeah.
but I think you bring up very good
Right, so.
You know, angles to that we should also capture. Are we done?
I like where you were going, Brian, but I'd say it goes a lot deeper.
Oh, certainly, I bet, yeah.
And what I mean by that, it's not, there are already those students with different socioeconomics in our district.
Yeah.
And I would say, with personal experience, they're suffering.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just their viewpoint.
Oh,
It's
good
that
point,
our
yeah.
staff
Yeah.
and the culture is ready to help them just because they're not like the other 95%
Yeah.
that come from a family a full family that supports them and gets them to school and gets them, right?
That's a great point, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I thought maybe that's a little bit of where you were going, but
Yeah.
that takes it a lot deeper. And what I would like to see out of these is well, what's not just a view or an idea, but are we going to make a priority that there's some action to it? And so it's really, what does that mean to students? They're already here. There's not a lot of them, but they're already here that don't do so well. Because we're used to having students that come from families that do most of the things for them.
Yeah. No, I
Mentorship.
I'm going to talk about
whatever that requires, but that's a basic, I mean, that's going to be a growing portion of our population, I think.
Yeah.
And even if it's not, if we've got that on our wall,
How do we do it?
it's not real unless it is every student.
Yeah.
Can you,
No, it's well
what
said.
did you mean when you said we have
No
more
students
than
left
every year?
behind.
You're talking about more where they are the ones that are doing things for themselves?
The top.
Or, I'm not sure I was
More-
following.
more- Well, we have the opportunity for our group to keep growing. Our group of students that need help. You know, I mean, the bigger we get, the more opportunities we have to have folks that are struggling.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean necessarily financially.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, I mean,
Lots of different
in lots of
ways.
different ways, right?
Mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because your diversity is not limited to just social economics, gender, race. So if this becomes an issue for you and you want to push it further as a priority, then you dig down. How does it become operationalized? That's when you trust your administrative team. They should know best. Honest to God, not to offend any of you, they will know better than you do. And they should. That's why we have this wonderful working pieces. You're a three-legged stool, remember this. Board, administrative team, superintendent. A Venn diagram, it's where all three of those circles go together that you're the strongest. Because as a board, you really have no authority until that meeting is called to order. All right? This individual doesn't have any authority unless you set good policy. The administrators don't know where to go unless they have a good leader. So I love what I'm hearing. Let me say this, is there anything else on that question? Because I love this conversation. We could be here at 10 o'clock, none of you want these, so let's, I'm going to move you
Well
on.
said,
No,
thank you.
other than I do, you know, we just, at the last minute, we kind of brushed those through,
Okay.
but I do think that we need that extra meat to.
So what I would like, I charge the two of you do, and I'll do each team too, I want you to write up what you presented to us. Okay, so it's clear, and then I'll pass it over to Gail, and she's going to put it on the sheet for us. So whatever the, yeah, it's good. That's not bad. All she's doing is putting on the big poster that we'll look at before we leave tonight. So somehow during this conversation, before we go, each team will have to get her the information for this, okay?
Yeah.
Very good, that's an excellent start. All right, let's jump to where would you like to see the Gilbert Community School District focus its efforts over the next 3 to 5 years? Okay, gentlemen, you have that?
Yep.
Okay, so what did you see in your reading as priorities?
Well, we echoed some of the same things that we heard from you guys as far as the diversity. I think it sounds like it came from the other group too. We want to see what we can do to make sure that we are hitting some of those areas that are maybe not like the 90 or 95% that would be out there.
I think, so that's one of them. Another one we talked about is, I think oftentimes there's reference to project-based learning in these. We kind of broke it down to like, I don't know, like collaborative, creative learning that, you know, was multi-subject and like a free expression or like a diverse expression of competency, so not just test-oriented. All of that's in PBL, right? So that's a piece of it.
We even talked about the fact that maybe even changing PBL, the wording on that maybe is different as you go to different groups in our community. Either that or we better do a better job of explaining exactly what it is. It doesn't have to be this capstone project that is, you know, whatever. It could be a small project, but there could be a lot of project-based learning going on. Another one that we talked about was like a career ready. I think that one of the things that we need to be looking at in our district is the fact that there are a lot of our students that go to a 4-year, that's fine, you know, we support that. But I think that there's also people that maybe don't fit into that direct way of doing things. They may want to go into a vocational, they may want to go out and they may want to be a carpenter, a plumber, electrician, what have you. And there's a lot of opportunities for that. I just hope that we are not limiting things because of the fact that, I mean, it's nice to be close to Iowa State, and that is a great opportunity. We're close to DMAC too, so we should be able to go ahead and leverage some of those type of things also. Anything else that you wanted to add?
I think the other piece in here is, and again, I don't know if this is in a 3 to 5 year focus area, but leadership development, you brought it up, it's in here as well. Is that true district-wide? Is that just for our sort of like admin, superintendent board component of it? Don't know, but that was certainly sort of pulled out of here and looks like it's represented on a bunch of these other ones. I think all of this, and Lindsay, you touched on it with the PBL thing, but sort of this notion of like, we have to make sure we're doing great at communicating these with our patrons, right? So in this broad category of what is our focus for 3 to 5 years, again, regardless of if this is encoded in that focus, we have to make sure we communicate our focus to our patrons as well.
Anything else, gentlemen? Did you scan that particular column? Was there anything that they missed?
Let us off easy well.
No. Just joking.
Yeah, we have this all written down too.
Yeah. Just make it a lot easier for her, and I'll put in exactly what you give to her, so it's important that we make sure we capture it through your eyes when we play. A moment to scan that to see if you think of anything else.
Is there a word, like I heard you guys say things like creative and creative learning, like different opportunities, different ways of learning. Some words that I think were important, at least they were important to me, and I just want to make sure that they're, see if they stick with the rest, is like relevant real life. Like, so there's creative learning, which is just, I'm going to pretend that I'm writing 10 different types of writing genres on the Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, that's creative. But is it those where the student has that real level of engagement that this is relevant to me and I know how this is going to help me in the world? I think that's something that I appreciate the creativity piece of it, but I think that there's something about, and I just use the word relevance. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but is there room for that and that?
Yeah,
I think
to
so.
kind of put that in there.
That feels like, I don't know, do you see that as part of PBL?
I don't
Or do
know.
we?
I think PBL is just a way of organizing your learning across, like I said, maybe I'm not completely, but I think it's just a way of learning PBL. I'm going to join multiple subjects together and show this, but I still think it doesn't necessarily mean you do that in a way that lends itself to real relevance. Like when we did the IPI, I'll back this up, IPI, they talk about engagement, not emotional or engagement, but engagement being, I get that what that teacher taught me is something I'm going to keep with me and I need, versus I have no idea why.
Random fact, I just remember I said
good
silly
point.
random fact.
Yeah. So to me, that was the difference, the relevance versus the, not to take away from the creativity and all of that, I think that's got equal play, but
Yeah.
to me, that's something, and I guess as having a high schooler, people
You have a
who have high
sophomore.
schoolers, I have a sophomore.
Yeah.
That's just what I hear at home a
just
lot.
went through the genres, right?
Yeah, right.
All 10 or 15 of them.
Yeah, right.
Which was really hard to go,
Yeah.
that really relevant.
He struggles at times to make the connection, which a lot of kids would.
Yeah, no, I think
Anyway.
this is a really good conversation.
So just, that would be my only comment about it. Otherwise, Yes, I didn't want you guys to put it out.
I think it's good, relevant.
Can you add that into yours when you send it out?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, I'm going to remind you that both you two groups are responsible for the language that you're going to send to Gail that we're going to put in your piece. So make sure that'll be your last part. Just kind of keep reminding you that. By no means are we waiting for last or whatever, but
It's going to be the sweetest.
it's going to be, okay, I'm glad you said that. There's cookies on the table if anybody needs any of those. So proceed potential areas of growth. Is that yours?
Ours is what does a Gilbert Community School graduate need to know and be able to do.
Okay, what things did you find in what you share as a team?
We'll condense it down to effectively communicate, problem solve, which there's a bunch packed into that, but problem solve, collaborate in a team setting, and be self-aware of their own strengths and passions.
And weaknesses we should put in there too.
Strengths,
I
weaknesses.
think we're growing up in everybody
Yeah.
gets a trophy that we shock these kids when they get out of school and they're actually criticized. They'd be like, "Where's my trophy?" Or the opportunity to fail.
The opportunity to fail.
Kids need to fail.
Deal with failure, absolutely.
Because the ones that are going to succeed in life are the ones that can get back up again.
That's exactly.
And if I never fell down, I don't know if I can get back up again.
I think that's.
So we put that all into self-awareness,
That's good.
right?
Would you sort of include some of the diversity stuff that you're thinking in there too? Or, I mean, I really like, Tyler, how you talked about diversity earlier, like, and I wonder how that fits into this piece.
Well, see, that's where mind diversity is a little different. Mind diversity is we have some diversity. It's not very much, but there are those students there.
Yeah.
And mine is more of how are we embracing them while they're here. This question is about what do they need to know and be able to do.
So how do we build youth? How do we build more youth that are like aware of that problem, right, and focused on it?
Well, that's what the administration and the teachers will take care of, right? That's what Jim
That's
just said.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But my point earlier was embracing them while they're here,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know that it fits with what do they need to know and be able to do other than, well, I want her to be like all the rest.
So
I want them to feel like they could come to Gilbert, and even though they only have a mom and no dad, and they may or may not have a printer at home, and they may or may not have internet at home, that they can still succeed in Gilbert.
So I think what I'm asking, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I was just gonna go even further because, I think that when we have a district where 95% of our students are college bound, I was just privy to a conversation very recently where part of the reason, well, I'll use my own son. He went to college because it's what was expected of him, right? And to sit around the table in the lunchroom and say, somebody's going to Iowa State, somebody's going to Iowa, and somebody's going to the Naval Academy Pickett, whatever. Yeah. And I'm going to go to tech school, right? I mean, those are just, we have to, part of this self-awareness of our strengths and weaknesses both are us being able to empower these kids to make good choices for themselves before they leave our doors. You don't have to go to a 4-year school and graduate in the top of your class to be a success in life, right? Yeah. What is your strength? What is your weakness? And that falls very much into this diversity piece.
So here's my question then, because I think both of what you said is so beautiful. What is the language we have to put in here that we value your perspectives, not what those perspectives are trying to do, but saying we're going to, kids who graduate are going to be as mindful as Tyler just articulated, right? Or that you just articulated. What is the language that we have to think, let's put this language in so that our admins and teachers are, and the rest of our staff are encouraging this sort of mindfulness around. So when they're 100 years old and they're sitting around a board table like we are, that they're like, hey, we should value this stuff.
The interesting thing about your conversation standing outside the circle is that you're talking about a culture. Your culture right now, from what you describe, is children in your district, students, whatever way you want to call them, are putting undue pressure on themselves because the culture that has been established over time indicates that to be successful or having been successful, you go to a 4-year university. That's what I think I heard you say.
So certainly, yes.
What I heard your group suggest is that we have to change that culture by helping kids understand that there's trades out there that they could go into and make a very strong and good living. Well, they'll never believe that until the culture changes to accept it. So one of the things that you have to think about, and again, we're getting way down here, and I'm terrible for pain, but I want you to think when you leave tonight, what really was the issue we discussed? Was it the fact that we have these high expectations, we're doing really good, we got the numbers to support it, my goodness, I'm envious. But on the other hand, are we doing a disservice in our culture, even with our parents, community members, store owners, because we've stepped out? We don't want to tell kids they shouldn't go to a four-year university. You're attacking that differently by saying, but we've got to pay more attention to those that don't. And we have to make it okay for them if they don't. So if that is truly a priority for you, then it comes back, what are we going to do? What's the language we're going to use? What's the operations we're going to get? And it won't start with your senior class. If you're going to change the culture, it's going to start with your little ones, where they understand. And see, and we're not seeing a lot of movement on that. I'm going to tell you straight up, and I should, and I'll step out of my role as facilitator. You won't see that kind of a cultural shift until you believe it's a priority, and not that you should, but you have to remind it starts down here. Probably even your middle school kids are feeling some of the pressure that your secondary kids are. So how do we help our elementary kids say, you know what, it's great to be a plumber, it's great to be whatever, it's great to be whatever. Here's an opportunity. Success isn't deemed by the Naval Academy, Iowa State, Harvard,
And
whatever
getting an
else.
A. I mean, my kids come home in tears if they get a B, and I'm like,
Yeah.
where does this come from? And it's pressure they're putting on themselves. Because I tell them, you know, C's get degrees.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if it isn't 100%, if it isn't 100%,
Yeah.
these kids are disappointed because they've dialed up that pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
This is going to be so
I agree,
unfair
because
because I know stuff you don't know because I've seen all the data. You're going to be, this is a teaser, like, you know, okay, I got to see that movie.
We'll come back.
You are going to really have an eye-opening experience when you look at what kids tell you. You really are.
Oh, good.
Just based on this conversation, but it's a good
No,
thing
that is.
because they're going to give you, that's why this process, and I'm not taking credit for it, nor is John, but the process is providing you a perspective from a number of different angles.
Yeah.
Not just yours,
Yeah.
not just the administration's, but a number of different angles. And so that'll be interesting. Okay, I got to get back on track.
Can I just say one last thing?
Sure.
And because that was super clarifying for me, and maybe the question isn't what language you need to put in here, Tyler, or anybody, not just you. Like, maybe it's more like, what cultural priorities do we as a board have to lead through to get that output that I was talking about? And maybe that's what you're trying to say, and I missed it.
And are we going too far when we go?
Yeah.
Those are discussions that we have to
Correct.
have. But right here,
Right
we're just
now,
trying
no.
to say,
Yeah,
of this
yeah.
feedback that we have, how can we best summarize it to share it with
Yeah,
them?
then we're going to just put it on the
Yeah.
sheet.
Because then we have to come back and go, oh, now that we have all of this information, how do we talk about that? Because we might spend time wordsmithing something. That
One
we
of the
don't.
other groups might give you the clarity that you don't have
Yeah.
tonight, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
And that's why you can't, so that's why I'm going to say, okay, let's take it from where it's at. Was there anything else from the two of you that we
I
missed?
thought it was a lot simpler than what it was.
We
had four.
Yeah.
So we heard all of yours?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, this is what I'd like you to do then, collectively come together with the language that you'd like to have put on the sheets, okay? That's your assignment right now. When you're ready, you'll pass it over.
Collectively, us two?
Pardon me? Yeah, the two of you get together on what you presented and say, let's submit this,
Because
and we'll get it on the sheet.
This is
I'll try to take the pressure off.
When I'm just
I would probably.
For which part are you
It's so wordy, but that's where it's
Right.
It is.
in the real, what is, yeah, it's kind of saying the real,
I agree.
real life.
Our column, I think.
I do that, so I'm trying
Where
to
does it
like
go?
relevant, multi-subject, collaborative, learning, and competency, I don't know, like, how that's actually worded.
No.
Yes.
And we can cut it back right now. I mean, we just need to put something on there.
Right.
Okay, so let's just do the first one. Let's start with relevant.
Okay,
Subject.
we win.
Get it relevant. Yeah.
We're on.
And
No
I
awards.
feel like a lot
Trophy.
is listening because if you think thinking about a lot of, I mean, that you said it, I was like, oh, sure, that sounds so easy. I mean, it really is, because listening is taking that in, it's listening into it.
Are they in order?
Yeah.
Effectively communicate.
And I think that is that. Yep. Here's, yeah. Create more engagement. I switched this up kind of. Create more engagement.
Okay, so that's that one. People relevant. So how do we get our exiting over? So like, the prepare for more in college. You wrote career ready.
Yep.
But it's not just career ready.
No,
Recognize it.
it doesn't, you don't have to go a 4-year track to be,
Yeah.
but a lot of people that we have will say,
Yeah.
that's good for us, and don't make it before.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So how do, what's
They're aware of their own
prepared
strengths.
for more in college?
Yeah. And then it's.
What does that say, when you have that career
The
ready?
diversity of
Wide
opportunities
yeah.
of people that,
I'm gonna put that, like diversity of opportunity.
of
Prepare for like outside of our shelter district.
Should we have passion on there? Supporting.
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah,
you're
I think
producing
so.
career ready
Self-aware,
citizens,
passion, and
whether
confidence.
first career is college or vocation.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
How do you support the 5%? So recognize.
You want
Let's
to jazz
see
it
all
up
the
a
work
little?
done by their junior year.
These guys, I don't know.
Maybe we'll spend their senior year exploring
I think that's good diversity.
something.
I mean, really,
We're creating something
college
relevant, not
or
just,
I think that
career
makes sense.
ready.
you know, have fun.
Because I just remember, I mean,
I graduated in '07, but I remember, you know, early on, it's like, okay,
What
especially
else
when
you
you put
could
this
do?
in school, it's like,
And I'm not
for a
saying
4-year,
I'm not open to
This is
this is your
right.
track, and I didn't have, I didn't have an opportunity to,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'm gonna take this, and
Right.
try this, or take this, you know, you're just kind of like, oh, here's your
College
path.
and career ready.
Yeah.
When we were in Arizona, there was one breakout session
Yeah,
where.
Yeah, right. It's
Gentlemen came to with
This kind of got
seniors
a
have
collaborative
capstone.
component in that first one.
Child,
We got,
somebody created
college
something that
and
went
this one,
on
so
a
that-
space shuttle.
Something about the
You
first.
know, someone else wrote a book, someone else.
Because we've had a lot of discussion on that, what do you think that
Doesn't
we
make
need to
them,
put in?
yeah, exactly, right, but not necessarily. Yes.
Maybe not.
Which is
There's
like
something in our
diversity.
$20,000 in first year of college.
You're kind of
$20,000.
So I
Diversity
can
and
embrace this,
supporting.
but I don't like ideas.
Yes,
You might be
yes,
strong
yes.
with what we're saying, for like
Yes.
justice and compassion.
But I think that.
Right, but I don't know if that's the right word to get for ours yet. But something around like,
Well,
exposure.
Sorry, Gail, you're gonna have some little.
I wrote experience, initially I wrote experience and fluence.
We're not making this like really easy. I mean, Gail, sorry.
It'll be
And then-
leaning towards action.
Whatever you send, we'll put on the paper.
Again, that's really coding a lot of what I
Maybe
know
not,
that's about.
goodness,
I don't-
it
we got a lot of stuff.
We got a lot.
tonight, you know?
Sorry.
Weird with that though.
is
True right now?
redefined.
Yes.
Okay, which one are we on?
It's
We're
fine.
number
It's
2.
exactly
So
right.
we kind of.
Yeah, I didn't.
Are you looking on our paper?
No way.
Are you sure? No, that sounded like.
Are you gonna flip her up?
Yes. So we have better mortgage, special accounts of district stakeholders.
What's that bottom one?
Leadership development?
How do you want to say
I'm
that
just gonna show you
though?
like, because some of my
Could
lines
that
are a
be-
little sideways, so
Could
special
that be
leverage,
the-
better leverage, special talents. of district.
I mean, we hope that we're all lifelong
Certainly.
learners.
Outstanding facilitating.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
it's
So
awesome.
it's easy to get fired up with a group that wants to
We need
go
to add it in
forward.
here.
Well, I really appreciate it because you're the difference
I think,
maker,
yeah, like-
turning this into a 3-hour deal. Yeah, no, really
The
appreciate
next
it.
one will have to be really focused because you'll have all of
Yeah.
it.
But if you say,
So we didn't
put
put
your little
like
stickers on the street, you think,
We'll come up with-
we can get there pretty quick. Yeah.
I think we'll be in good shape. But thank you, John. That's very kind of you to say. I appreciate
This is-
that. You know, it's like a great bid. You wonder if you're losing a step. You know, it's like the NFL quarterback. It doesn't quite go out as fast as it used to.
Well, this is one of the hardest things to do, you know,
Yeah.
because everybody's all, it's like herding cats.
Exactly.
You know, Everybody's
It is.
all over the
Sometimes
place.
it is.
Yeah.
You guys have really done a nice job. Honestly, I'm not blowing smoke at you. Sometimes, wow, I get into situations where people don't even like people, and that becomes so much.
Oh, we just make it well.
You know,
No, but we've grown a lot by
I
working
didn't
through
need to
it.
find out for like.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, of course.
But I just
She'd have pulled me
don't
together.
know.
You totally should.
I was totally like,
All not to do this.
Number
If we all
five.
agree on
Yeah,
that,
see
then
that?
we're probably.
No, that was fair.
Totally, okay, I'm just.
I know, I expect nothing less.
Just joking.
I expect nothing
So
less.
you'll
I
all
did not
get
mean
a
that
lively
as a
discussion on
slight.
I
this.
felt-
I think you should tell John next time, like, that kid's okay. Might keep me around for.
Yeah. Well, he knows already on that.
Do some signing here, assuming we've already approved all the stuff.
Why aren't they getting assignment?
Sorry.
Right on, right?
We're kind of a.
Right, my goodness sakes.
What kind of what? I'm sorry.
We're
You don't have to
a-
get out tonight. Just kind of
It was
work
cultural
it.
business.
Oh,
That.
yeah.
This really
That'll do
sounds
it.
like so.
It helps.
It does.
Recognize and
Most certainly does.
recognize, embrace, and support diversity is what that was. And then we just gave examples, like you could, if we only had one, embracing, yeah. We just put examples in the book so that.
Tricky.
I don't think so. Are we?
I'm sorry.
We're not whittling to 3 tonight, are
You
we?
can leave that
No.
out.
We're just, we're,
This is just for you to do your data, and the administrative team will do theirs, and then you will get everything.
So you'll,
Like,
but you'll,
I'll be
like
here.
recognizing
I
diversity.
mean, you'll
I'm not trying to make it
condense
be the
things.
same, but
I will, what I will do is we'll show you the
Celebrate
themes
that
that come through the groups, and that's what you'll work with. So
Right.
you won't, you'll
You
have
know,
the,
you guys
all the
appreciate
data,
it,
go,
and then
if you want to
this
go and
one's
say,
gonna
I
be
really
culture.
want to see what every graduate said, you'll
Right.
be able to do that.
this is
But
great.
we'll have what we believe the
Like,
themes
usually maybe
were
that
in
means I
that
can
narrow
do
down.
it. I don't think
Just we'll get our
we don't
stickers
have
off Kim
any.
and say, these are my 5 top ones, or whatever.
That's
see it
nice.
all.
I don't know. Here.
I think so.
We get everybody, oh, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're like me, Brian wrote these, you wouldn't be able to read my writing.
Really interested to see.
I use my left hand too.
Yeah. Well, I was at license with 5 years with us.
Yes, ma'am.
That came that night. She was, Sam was, but I know one of your daughters couldn't.
To the left,
Honor
there,
couldn't.
Okay,
before.
but what did she say, what she,
Oh, she thought it was.
did she like the activity?
Jim, is this what you thought this
Yeah.
would look like?
Yeah.
And she's,
Pretty well, I was gonna ask you the same.
she's always the thinker.
Since I work for you, it's important that I do what you need to have.
But
She's
the
one.
kind of good conversation.
That's exactly
I don't
what I say to
work
Julie.
in City
I'm
Bragg,
like,
long for-
you're just
Yeah.
trying to be honest. It doesn't matter what I say.
I think the
It
next
doesn't
session,
matter what I
you'll
say.
we'll either have to
I have
look
the
at
same
the
kid.
session,
He is like
or we'll
that.
do one long
You didn't, I
marathon.
know you don't
You
even
know,
think that.
so
You're just trying to
I'll
be
go
honest.
through it, but I think we probably ought to say to people, you need at least 2 hours to do
Okay.
that, you know. And I have some potential things that you and I can do, we can ask, or we can ask tonight.
Speech, the
Whatever
kids
you
said
want.
the speech did really well, didn't they?
Did John give you his?
Yeah, I have his too. Okay, while Gail is finishing that up, let's just talk about next steps. Again, just so you know, because you need to know, and you have a right to know. Tomorrow morning, same activity with the administrators, just with their data, okay? That will be done, we'll collect just like we've done here. Then I'll put together, I don't want to say, well, I suppose like a spreadsheet, have the columns of themes that each of the groups, we identified the 7 that we had, or however many groups. John and I did that. You may agree or disagree with that. We'll have yours, and we'll have the administrators. Your job when we come back together, and we were just talking about time, we can do it any way that you want to do it, except as you can imagine, that one will be the really deep conversations, because you will need to come away from that meeting, if I'm going to hold you to, 3 areas. And they can be broad, you don't have to get down in the weeds. We can just say, we really believe, like you said, culture, we'll just pick big things, communicate, whatever it is, I don't care. We're going to pick that, and we're going to send it back to Lindsay. We want you guys to work on this, come back to the board, and say, here it is, just like you have on the wall right over there. This is what we're, before it gets printed, this is what we're looking at. Does this answer what the charge that you gave them to do, and does it address all the input that you got? Those will be the questions I'll keep pounding away. How would you know if you got to go tell this to somebody at a basketball game or track meet this spring or whatever? Have you done your due diligence as a board? Because this one's on you because you've chosen to be the ones to choose. Nothing wrong with that. But there's responsibility that I'll hold you to in that, or it has no meaning if you don't. Okay? And then we'll work through that process. So I would propose that the next time this group gets together, knowing that you're going to look at all of that, I think what I'm going to choose to do, if you're not opposed, is I'm going to get you that data early. and with the assignment clear about what you need to do. And we'll get it early enough so you have time, not just a day, but hopefully 10 days before a meeting, because once I get this put in, I'm ready to go. And then you can look at it, and I'll give you the charge of I want you to look at the data. Instead of going vertically now, you'll go horizontally. So you'll be looking at every group and what they have to say about question 1. The giveaway is the first one. I mean, that's just a good feel kind of thing. So read it, enjoy it, celebrate it. The work comes in questions 2, 3, and 4, whatever you want to do, the real meat of the survey that we did. To look at what you're going to bring to this meeting and say, wow, I think that now looking at what we did here tonight, administrators, all of this, here's 3 priorities in that particular question. Here's another 3 in this one. Here's another 3 in this one. It will be whatever you put in that column that your conversation will be around that night. And hopefully there's some similarities, as you said, and go, wow, I saw that in all groups, and now we see it in all 5. Well, we better put that on the wall for consideration. And hopefully it'll go that way. And I think, again, I have a little more knowledge than you do, which is unfair at this point. I think you will see some similarities that you'll be able to buy in. Nesting on or setting into choosing those 3 will be a challenge. It always is, just because you'll all come from different places. I say it that way, and hopefully at the meeting you go, well, you said it was going to be this hard. It's not hard at all. Then we'll all celebrate, and I'll say, gosh, I was wrong. Thank goodness, okay? After that, then, what I suggest that you do, you can have it at your board meeting, where you simply say, these are the priorities we've set based upon the information that we got. Review for the community, the minutes reflect, we went through this, we went through this, we went through this. So if somebody questions you, you can say, my goodness, we have all these groups represented, et cetera. Came up with these great priorities that we now send to the administrative team, which I've said numerous times tonight, with some kind of thing. Lindsay will take a look at them and say, you know what, I think we can come back with this information in a form for you to consider in a week, 10 days, a month. I don't know what it'll be. That's up to you all doing. And we can help facilitate that conversation with your team if you choose. We don't have to, but we're happy to do that. So before I let you go tonight, I always like to go around in what is it that you are leaving tonight's meeting with? If you met someone in the parking lot, at the store, at your work, they said, wow, I heard you had a meeting last night. What are you prepared to tell them? What are you taking away from tonight's meeting? And I'm not looking for an ego slap for me. I'm just saying, what are you going to take away? What's the message that this board is going to send about the work that you did tonight?
We're having good dialogue on culture of our district.
Okay, thank you. No wrong or right answers. It's your impression. Anyone else?
I think the challenges in front of our district are pretty substantial. We have incredible resources as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Not everybody has to go, so no pressure.
We're gathering the priorities for various stakeholders, and we're listening, and that we're going to prioritize those through a great third-party facilitator that's helped us to make this a very formalized process, and we think that things are going to come out.
Good. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
I would say that we're very fortunate that we have the opportunity to be planning these kinds of goals and to be visioning on things like this instead of how do we get our students from here to here? Where do we find the money to do that? I feel very fortunate that we have these opportunities.
Well said. Good. Thank you.
I don't know. I think I would kind of go off of what John said, and that I think we're really gathering and we're synthesizing some information and really listening to a variety of stakeholders, some who we may not have heard from in the past. And we're going to be taking that information and making some important decisions with a good, solid foundation of feedback.
And the reason I ask you this, I'm going to ask you too, so don't go away. The reason I ask you this is because I would love you to do that as you run into people in the district. Say, hey, we had a meeting the other night. We're happy. I'm hearing positive things from what you just said, so I'm building on what you said. We really got some good things going here. We're looking at priorities in the district. We've involved another people because that story is very important. Very, very important. Gail, not to put you on the spot, but what are you walking away from tonight, having been more of an observer than a participant?
Oh, it's been great conversation. Sitting down and listening and the directions and the common things that, that come up, but there's great collaboration.
Okay, good. Thank you. Lindsay?
I think it's been very interesting because we'll go into board meetings and we'll talk about the different things that go on in our district. But we haven't really rolled up our sleeves like we did tonight and talked about some of the things that are probably some of the most important things for our district. And I appreciate listening to the conversation and knowing, you know, you might be in groups and groups and groups, but we're not that far off as far as where we're at. And I would guess that we might see some of that as we go on.
Yeah, I think that you will. And again, that's a little tease because I want you to come back.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll do that. For the sake of the group, any final comments that anyone would like to make? Again, this is going to sound like I want a pat on the back. It is. Is the process working for you? Remember, I work for you. This is not about Heartland and being facilitated. You want to do what you need. It's so important to me at the end of this, you will be proud of your product. My joy will come from the fact that, wow, I was part of helping you get there. So it's not about, well, Jimmy's, and I appreciate John's kind comments. I'll take those home, and I want to tell the other John that I travel with, listen up, will you? It's kind of like when I tell my kids, do you hear what the nice things they say about your dad? Anyway, anything in the process that we could do, other than that, you're okay, we're moving forward.
I like the idea of giving us the data ahead of time, because it sounds like we're going to have a little bit of homework.
Yeah, we'll give you all the raw, and you'll see what they came up with, and however you want to go with that, and I'll be very clear in the assignment you have to be prepared. That's the only thing I'll ask of you, and I promise I'll close. You've got to do that part. Because if you come unprepared, I'm not suggesting anything, then we're stuck in the mud. That's all. But then we're waiting for you to catch up. But we need to do that now to start. Okay, let's take a look at this. And if I put up a screen or whatever, and here's it across, break you into teams, I want you to see what did you get from that, share it with someone else. Collectively, what do the two of you think? So then once we get that in, each one of those questions, as you can see, whatever you come up with, it could be 10, 3, 2, 1, I don't know. Then looking at that whole list, what's your priority? And that can be a sticky dot, it can be whatever you want. And
that's when it gets hard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if we're not all up to speed, then we'll never get there, and then you're going to get tired on me, which we should after a long day's work and all the weather and all that stuff. Then we don't make a good decision. And that's, if we're going to go one night for 2 hours, we've got to be sharp when we get to that point.
I mean, I think like 2 hours seems like we've almost used 2 hours here, and we haven't really even like hit like wordsmithing and figuring that stuff out.
That's what I worry about.
I would think, I think like 3 hours with a meal would be.
Could we do that in the morning?
Oh,
if we can find a day, we're.
I think it's worthwhile. Something so important. I don't care. I just think if it's morning time, if we can find a morning that we could meet, it would be well worth, because I'm a lot better at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock than in the evening. But I just throw it out there, and if it doesn't work, I'm okay with that too. But
I'm going to leave that back to you.
Of all the meetings
you work on
that we have,
the morning meeting will be fine. And John and I will be here. If you want to start at 7, we'll be here at 7. It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
You know, the earlier the better if that helps some of you, or work day or whatever you have. But yes, the answer to that question is yes, we could do that. Okay. Or I could say, why don't you just block the morning, and if we get done early, that'll be really great. And if not, you can serve lunch, and then everybody can go after that. And that's, I know you think, well, I got 4 hours. You're really working to something good here. Now, this is going to sound like Jimmy's just trying to pat you on the back. You're really moving in a very positive direction. You're having good engagement and good conversation. And I just think that when you get to this next meeting, you're just going to need more of that to get to where you want to be.
When will you have all of that information to us?
I'll take this back, put that in, then I will do the administrators tomorrow. I don't know that I'll have, because just getting it all in the form is kind of a technological challenge. Depending upon the date that we set for the meeting, I'll back that off as much as I can, 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, and get it to you. So why don't we, I'm sorry for a political answer, if you guys tell me, hey, we can meet on the 14th of March, then I better get it to you here pretty quickly. Because I don't want it to be where you have to spend 3 nights in a row working on it. You know, you might want to take a question, just look at that some night. That's it, back away from it, come back to it.
I mean, my assumption is we need probably a week-ish to look at the data. Is that comfortable for you?
I think that'd be good for me. Like a week. A week? I tend to just kind of have better time just kind of diving into it than going back and forth. Do you guys disagree?
Yeah, you all have different learning styles. So we will say, how about I say this now, you will get it at least a minimum of 7 days before the meeting.
I think that's great for us.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, if anyone needs more time, let's talk about it. But
I think the bigger trick will be
the date.
The date.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Should we look
So
at that?
Tyler, let's start with you, because you got
You're
to do the
The problem is, John, I assume he was thinking an evening meeting.
Yeah.
So that's why I think maybe if you guys, excuse me, if you all as a board would initiate maybe 4 or 5 dates.
Okay.
If it's a meeting in the morning you want, then John and I will look at our schedules. Because I really can't speak for him, because he
Sure.
might be thinking, oh, this was a 7 o'clock meeting or a 5 o'clock meeting. And I would do the same. But we'll find it. We'll find it for you.
Yeah.
So with that, then I'm going to say thank you very much and let you go on with that. I think if you're okay, I'm going to leave that here tonight. I'll take all that back with me tomorrow.
That's fine.
And then I can plug that in and maybe we'll be able to find a date fairly soon here.
Yeah.
And sometime the first part of March, it's almost March.
Yeah.
First part of March, we can get after the heavy lifting. Okay?
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure again.
I'll stand
Okay,
down.
you bet. I'll sneak out here. Thank you so much.
So next week is out because we need to meet.
Yep.
So then the following week,
We have
I
a board
am-
meeting on the 11th, right?
yeah, and I'm gonna miss that. So the 11th is Monday,
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday. I get home Wednesday night. So I could do Thursday the 14th or Friday the 15th. Then we go into spring break if anybody's gonna be gone.
I won't be there.
Yeah, I
We'll
won't be
here,
either.
but- Did you say you won't be here?
I will, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere over spring break.
The-
Anybody?
I have no work travel or
The
no personal
15th
travel.
works better than the 14th for me. I'd have to cancel a meeting to make the 14th.
And you're talking
Yeah,
about the morning,
15th
right?
works.
The morning of the
The
15th
15th.
works for me.
Yeah,
Yeah?
and we need to get him a couple
There's no
of
school
dates.
that day, is that accurate? I have that on my
Yeah,
calendar.
School.
that's correct.
The 15th.
It's a little
It's
trickier for
beginning
me
of
then,
spring.
but,
What is that,
Beginning of
snow
spring
day?
break.
Oh, yeah, that's the beginning. of
no,
spring.
that works for me.
That's one, right?
The
15th
Is
Monday.
one of them.
That's probably the earliest we can do it then.
I would,
Yeah.
yeah, probably.
Jim,
We're
do you
gonna-
happen to know when your spring breaks are?
Spring breaks for us, I think it's the 18th, is that?
Yeah.
That's
that's
ours.
It's Monday the 18th.
And are you around?
I will be, I don't know, we're gonna be gone a few days, but I'll find that out for you.
Okay.
Okay.
In doing that, I think probably the first part of the week would be better for me right now, but I don't know that for sure yet. I'll
Okay.
get that to Lindsay right away.
I have.
So
I
that's
think
super
I'll
nice that
probably
both
be
of you
gone
had spring break.
that
So
week
we
of the
put the
18th. I'll be
Okay.
gone.
Yeah.
So
we
then
gone,
that
okay.
brings us to the 25th, the
Okay.
week of the 25th.
Yeah.
I have, like, honestly, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings are good for me, so I'm, with enough notice, I'm probably as
Same.
flexible as anybody.
Same for
So,
me, 25th, 27th, 29th.
I don't know.
29th doesn't work, but 25th and 27th could.
Okay,
The
so we have,
25th and 27th work for me.
And
So
what about
we
a
have-
Saturday, the 30th?
That works.
That one's
so 15th,
Is
we
that
put
pushing,
down the 25th, the 27th, and did you say that?
30th.
is that pushing too late? Are we worried about timing on any of this?
Yeah,
Well, I think we'll give them all these dates, and obviously the sooner is
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
and then
right.
Oh,
the
yeah.
first one that hits,
Yeah.
Take it.
we
So
take it.
that's
That's 4 of them.
That's 4 dates? I mean, is that good?
March
No, I think
15th,
that's
March
good.
25th, March 27th, and March 30th.
Yep,
Yeah, and if none of those work, I mean, we could slide back into evenings. I like your idea though, the morning.
Yeah, I just think this is kind of the,
Yeah.
this one's gotta be
Yeah.
where we're our
I
sharpest.
kind of like a Saturday myself, so that you're not sitting here going,
I gotta be.
Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go.
right?
Yeah.
But that's just the,
You don't have youth sports anymore? My Saturdays are all gyms and soccer fields.
so see, this would be a lot more pleasurable.
I don't still, yeah. Bring my son with me, just dribble in the corner.
do you think this is a?
So Brian, your
to give
preference
them?
would be week?
Yeah,
During the
not, I'd love telling my employer no, sorry, more than I like telling my kids no, so.
week. Me too.
Yeah.
All right, well, you got 4, right?
14.
14.
March 15th, March 25th, March 27th, and March 30th would be
The last.
the last resort.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah, not the 14.
preferred
Last
option,
option.
sooner the
Okay.
later, the sooner the better.
We good, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
all right.
Kim?
Tim, all in favor, good?
Aye.
All right, stand adjourned, thank you all.
Yeah, good meeting, good meeting.
Good discussion.
Thank you, guys.